Good day, everyone. I'm just actually trying to do something today about inflation. Now, someone was asking yesterday about what news is important and on the group, but the thing is, high impact news is what actually you think of high impact news. Like I have my own philosophy that I have, which I look at high impact news. Now, basically, trading is economics. In my eyes, I'm not saying in everybody's eyes, but I believe in economics. Now, most of us have the idea that that trading is, I don't know, something far away from reality. It is actually the reality. For example, the example that I will make today is actually inflation. Now, if you look at the descriptions of inflation, this is now Forex factory. They say here the change in prices of goods and services purchased by consumer. Now the market get control by people, not Illuminati or a central bank or whatever or the president or whichever name the papers or people are saying. It gets controlled by people. So, which means that when they say here the change in price of goods and services purchased by consumer, so which means if people buy more stuff, then the inflation increases. If people buy less stuff, then inflation decreases or you get deflation. Now, this is actually quite a phenomenon across the world, where we have now, especially in Europe and United States, New Zealand, Australia, not so much Canada, but we're sitting with a problem of deflation. Now, when inflation goes down, you can basically bet on it to say that the interest rates will go down. Now, it depends also on the central bank's views. For example, most of the countries or advanced economies have an inflation objective of 2%. So everybody try to get to their inflation at 2%. Now, this is actually now euro that I will make the example on. Now, the European Union or the European Central Bank try to get inflation at 2%. Now, the thing is, the inflation here is 1%, which is far away from 2%. Now, that's why the euro is actually going down, because the market anticipate already that the central bank will drop the interest rates. I don't know until where, but they will drop the interest rates. The problem in Europe and across the world is that people are not spending. And that's why inflation is going down. So the main thing about inflation is actually to check the health of the consumer, because the consumer is actually the market. Now, the change in prices of goods and services purchased by a consumer, now that is the proper, basically, I would say, definition of inflation. Now, this part here, I absolutely don't agree on. Where they say actual greater than forecast, it's good for the currency. Now, that is nonsense. Um, because most of the time, you get, not most of the time, yeah, nowadays it's most of the time, you get bad inflation also, which doesn't come from the consumer, but it comes in a form of bad inflation. For example, a weather disaster can also cause bad inflation. For example, a drought can push prices up. Um, we in South Africa have the problem of Eskom. So, which means when the price of electricity goes up, it means the producers of goods and services have to charge more because they have to pay more for electricity. And then when it comes to us, then the price is high. Now, the problem is there is that the actual inflation doesn't come from the consumer, but it comes directly from Eskom. Now, bad governments has the notion of creating bad inflation, and which is the problem in South Africa. Now, the problem also with inflation is that people don't understand that when you have low unemployment, that normally creates higher inflation. Now, it's simple. When you have low unemployment, it means that people are working, so which means people will be spending, and that's why inflation will increase. Also, the vice versa aspect, when you have unemployment high, that will lead for people not having wages, people are not spending, so which means you will get deflation. As I said, in South Africa, we're supposed to have inflation far lower. We're supposed to have inflation at 2% there around. But because of the government and ESCOM just plugging tariffs and everything in South Africa, that's why we're sitting with bad inflation, and that makes life a bit difficult in South Africa. Now, this description here, the actual greater than forecast, this is absolutely wrong. And I see a lot of people just follow this part. And this is absolutely wrong here. The same applies at investing.com, which is also a popular site, where they say here, the description and definition is correct. The consumer price or CPI measures the change in prices of goods and services for the perspective of the consumer. It is a key way to measure the change in purchases trend and inflation. That is correct. But this part here, a higher than expected reading should be taken as positive. If you have bad inflation and inflation or CPI goes up, that doesn't mean the currency will go up. The currency will go down because it's bad inflation. Now, to be honest with you, if you trade with calendars like investing.com and FOREX Factory, honestly speaking, and I talk about personal experience, you will get absolutely nowhere. You will lose money because of these descriptions. Now, the thing is, you need to figure out as the trader, which is now literally a discussion on its own, where does this inflation come from? Now, most of the time, if you see that retail sales are going up, then you can expect inflation also to go up. But when retail sales are down, which means inflation will go down. Now, in South Africa, this is the case, where you have retail sales down, but inflation is going up. Now, in that regard, that is bad inflation. Now, when you have bad inflation, that currency will go down regardless if the inflation number goes up. Now, honestly speaking, if you look at investing.com and Forex Factory, if you follow these calendars and you say you're trading fundamentals or news, you are making one hell of a mistake because you are not making profit. You can say that to someone who's really retarded, but I will not believe it because these descriptions here and on Forex Factory is absolutely nonsense. So please, you need to get a better calendar and more understanding on Forex, on fundamentals. But honestly speaking, if you follow Forex Factory or investing.com, you will get absolutely nowhere. Thank you. Bye-bye.